Hey friends, it's Missy again. Thanks for joining me today. I'm here with a new using older supplies layout, which means I pulled some stash off of my shelves and I'm going to dive into it. And this is an older Pebbles collection. I think it's called From Me to You, and I think it was from 2013. And I've also got another collection mixed in here. I don't remember the name of it, but I think it was like a celebration line or a birthday line. And I love all these papers and colors, and some of them are whole, some of them have been cut into. And I have the sticker sheets, and I have some of the chipboard, and I really love this speech bubble paper, so that's going to be the basis of this layout. And I'm going to also use this cut file from Paige Evans. And here's my picture today. This is a typical photo of how, when I try to take selfies with both of my girls, this is how they turn out 9 times out of 10. And I've learned to embrace those imperfect photos, because when I look back, years from now on those types of photos, they're going to be special, because that's how my kids were and that's how they were in that moment. And so I've learned to just accept the fact that my kids are never really going to look at the camera and smile perfectly. And so I just take what I can get, and it's perfectly fine. Okay, so for the design of the layout, I wanted to create something with speech bubbles, and I've had this paper for a long time. I'm going to fussy cut out a lot of these, and my idea behind this was to kind of create the speech bubbles kind of coming out from behind the photo. And it's kind of a play on words, because if you follow my channel for a while, then you probably know, but if you are new, then you might not know that both of my girls have nonverbal autism, and so they cannot talk. I mean, they make noises and things like that. They're not silent, but they can't have a conversation. I've never had a conversation with either one of them, and Reese is 12 and Paige is 9. And so, our life is very different than the typical family. And, if I had one wish in my life, it is to hear both of my girls talk and be able to have them answer questions and just have a conversation. That's something that most people take for granted, or most people don't have to even think twice about, but I've never gotten to do that in my life as a mother. And so I kind of have shied away from speech bubbles or things that involve conversations, because it's hard for me to talk about and to deal with. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to embrace this and create a layout about my dream for my girls and my dream for me, and just kind of embrace it and not be afraid to express that on a layout, if that makes any sense. So I'll talk about it more as I go, but what I'm going to do here is use some white marshmallow basil cardstock as my background. I'm going to coat it with clear gesso, and then I pulled out these watercolors. These are my Japanese Gansai Tambi. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong, but I got these on Amazon, and I know that you can get them several places, but I have not used them in a while and I love them. So I thought I would just do something different and kind of create some splotchy watercolor looks on the background here. And I'm trying to pull from some of the colors that are in the speech bubbles. I'm going to use a little bit of orange, some teal color or aqua, and some pinks, and just kind of play around here. I knew that I wanted my photo to kind of be in the lower left-hand corner of the background, and then have the speech bubbles kind of coming out from behind it, kind of going up in a diagonal fashion toward the upper right corner. So yeah, I'm just kind of blending and smudging. I'm using the brush. I'm using some plastic packaging here, trying not to overlap the colors too much, because I didn't want to create anything that looked brown or muddy. And the gesso really helps with that, because if you add some color down that you don't like, or you change your mind, or it's too much, you can blot it up pretty quickly, and it's easy to kind of to fix that if you make a mistake. It's not going to just soak right through the paper, versus if you did not use gesso. It kind of primes the paper, it makes it a little bit thicker and sturdier, and it just gives it sort of a base to put liquids on top of. And you can see how much water I'm using here. My paper's not really going to buckle. It may curve a little bit, but nothing that you can't flatten out. And I also added in some shimmers there to add in some color variation and some splatters, just to add a couple different shades of pink. I also have some acetate frames from this collection that you can kind of see there on the lower left-hand corner of the screen. I try several times to use those in the design, but since I use the watercolor on the background, you can't really see the true colors of the frames, and I wind up not using them. But I really like how this background looks, so I'm going to start to build everything. I'm going to use some white tissue paper behind my photo first to kind of give it just a little bit of a layer. And it's going to go right there. And then I'm going to just play around with the speech bubbles and kind of see what I want to do with them. And I cut the cut file speech bubbles into separate pieces, and I'm going to try to incorporate those as well. And I really love the colors here. I love the different shades of that peachy pink and the orange and the bright green. And I'm just trying to kind of make it all work together. And here's where I try to work in the frames, but none of them really just looked right. I didn't want to put it on top of the picture. I mainly wanted to use those as layers, but it just kind of, I felt like it kind of darkened the colors, darkened the layout a little bit, and I wanted to keep this light and bright. And I really like those little speech bubbles cut individually. I think that's fun. And I really like how this looks without the pattern paper speech bubbles on there, but I do want to add those because they say general things like, hey there, thank you, hello, I love you, things like that. And so, you know, these are just simple things that most people say on a daily basis that I would love to hear my kids say. And so it's kind of a play on just things that I hope for the future. You know, every day is one day where I think, is today the day? Today could be the day that one of them says something that, you know, they answer a question, because I talk to them all the time. I ask them questions all the time and I never get an answer. So, you know, it's just kind of one of those hopeful types of layouts where these are things that I hope happen in the future. I hope that makes sense. I don't want to ramble on and bore you with things that go on in my life, but I feel like you kind of need an explanation as to my photo there. This photo was actually taken at my girls' school last November. They had a Thanksgiving thing where you could come and eat Thanksgiving dinner with your child or children, and so I did, and you know, it's really chaotic and loud in there, and I was sitting between them trying to get a selfie with both of them, and Reese was trying to nuzzle up against my cheek and give me a kiss, and Paige was just distracted and was looking elsewhere. And the more I look at the picture, I'm just like, that's them. That's how they are. And it's okay. You know, it's very rare if I get the perfect smile and the perfect pose. And I really don't expect that anymore. It used to bug me years ago when I would try so hard to get them to pose for me and smile, and you know, they would run off or they would look away or they would get frustrated, and it would just upset me because I just wanted pictures of them smiling at the camera. And now I've just come to understand that it's okay if they're not looking at the camera and smiling. That's how they are, you know, and I want to remember how they are. I don't want a picture of something that they're not, you know. If they do look at the camera and I happen to catch it and it's perfect, then I celebrate that because it's rare. But I'm okay with pictures like this because that's real life and that's how it is. And you know, I look at this picture, and when I saw this speech bubble paper, I thought, you know, I'm gonna try to make this work for me. You know, a lot of people like to write about conversations they had with their children, or, you know, something funny that someone said, and focus on that as the title or the journaling. But since I can't do that, this is sort of a, you know, here's what I hope can happen one day. And I would love for all of these words to just pour out of their mouths. And so that's kind of the speech bubble idea here. And I decided to layer in the little the cut file speech bubbles and layer the pattern paper speech bubbles kind of underneath some of them, on top of some of them. I added some foam behind some of them to raise them up. So some of them are flat, some of them are dimensional, and I did add some foam behind my photo and some coordinating thread. I think that's more of like an orangey yellow color. And I move it around in a couple of spots because I can't decide where it needs to go. This layout actually took me like 3 days to finish. I would just, because this week has been very busy, and so I would just work on it a little bit here and there each day until I finished it. And I did go back and forth a lot about what my title was going to be. I thought about using, you know, actions speak louder than words, because the actions of my girls, you know that they love you, and you know that they want to play with you, and you know when they want to cuddle with you because of their actions. They can't say it, but they can show it. And then I thought, well, that's a really long title, and I just kind of shortened it to speechless, because, you know, speechless has a lot of meaning. Obviously, in my case, they are speechless because they don't have the ability to use language like we do. But also, when I look at this picture, you know, I get speechless because I love them so much, and it's okay if they don't talk. It's okay if they never talk. Of course, I hope they do, but I'm just speechless sometimes at how sweet and how smart they really are, even though they can't verbalize that. And so I thought that was the perfect title, since we're dealing with speech bubbles. And I like how it looks. And I pulled some white foam thickers from my stash. I'm sure you probably had some, and you may be hoarding them as well, but they're just your standard, I can't remember the actual name, but just white American Crafts foam thickers. And I like the tone on tone with the white on the white. I added some floral stickers and some chipboard around the photo there just to give it a little bit more detail. And then I am going to glue the photo down finally. And then I realized that I'd covered up a lot of the aqua watercolor. And I know I say this a lot, but that's just the nature of creating a watercolor background. A lot of times the prettiest part of it gets covered up, and sometimes that's a bummer. And when that happens to me, I just go back and add more to make it more visible. And that's all I'm doing here, is just adding some more so you can see it. And I found this little tiny, I think it's like a 2x2 frame. I really loved the pink and yellow blended look on it, but I couldn't find a spot for it. So I just cut it in half, and I'm going to tuck it in as a layer. And you're going to be able to see just a slight bit of the color variation there. So I'm going to add that in. And then these are some very old, look, it's even broken, Prima, what are these called? Little ink pads. And the pink one is not even stuck to the container anymore. It just fell out, but it still has ink in it. So I'm going to use it to smudge some color onto the bottom of the thickers. I'm going to use that pink one and then this golden yellow color. And that way you're going to be able to see the word speechless pop off the page a little bit more, and it creates a really fun and pretty ombre effect on those letters. And then what am I doing now? Adding in some thread. I needed some more aqua right there in that corner, so I'm going to add that thread in there. And then the journaling, I actually do quite a bit of journaling compared to how I usually do it, but I had a lot to say. And I'm basically just talking about things that I've mentioned in the video here, just about how, people say, if you could wish for one thing, what would it be? And this is always at the top of my list, for sure, to have a conversation with my girls. And I had to pull out a new Sharpie because I had flattened the tip of the one I've been using, and that's just the nature of writing on top of gesso. I don't press down really hard when I use my black pen there, just to prolong the tip of it, because the gesso is kind of gritty and it does kind of have the tendency to mess up the ink pens. So I thought this little corner over on the upper left needed a little something. It was just kind of bare. So I create a little cluster using more flower stickers and some more of the speech bubbles and the cut file speech bubbles over on the left there. This is getting close to being done. I hope I didn't ramble on too much about my photo. I know usually I don't talk a lot about my photos, but I just wanted to, you know, talk about why I'm using the speech bubble paper and why I've hoarded it for so long, and kind of why my photo is, you know, the way it looks. But that's kind of the story behind my thought process of creating this layout. So I hope it made sense, and I hope you enjoyed the layout. I'm getting close to being finished. I like how it turned out. It was kind of cathartic and therapeutic to make it, and just to, you know, like I said, embrace this imperfectly perfect photo of me and my sweet girls, because they are sweet and they are funny and they make me laugh multiple times a day, and they're happy, and that, in the end, to me, that's the most important thing. So, more speech bubbles. I almost didn't add a yellow one over there, but I finally add a little snippet of it, because now all the colors are represented in that area. I thought about adding something at the bottom of the layout, but I just leave it as is. I'm going to stamp the date, and then I believe that is it. Yep, that's the final layout. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you were inspired to maybe pull out a pattern paper that you've been scared to use, or you just, you know, like me, it kind of scared me to create a layout about speech, since it's such a huge deal in our lives. But you know what? I just decided to make it work for me, and I did. And I love how it turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So let me know if you have any questions about any of these products. Like I said, they're really old, so they're probably not for sale anywhere anymore, but if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. So thank you so much for watching and listening today, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.